There's a couple of dynamics that are intersecting right now, and one of them is just that the Saudis aren't quite as important to us as they used to be, and they recognize that. The Saudis, because of shale, because of the energy revolution in this country, we don't need them in quite the same way. They're not going to be able to play quite the same role with, oh, Saudis, up your production, we need you.
But as a guy from Texas, where all the Texas-based oil companies are currently freaking out, saying, we cannot handle this. We can't handle this drop in the price of oil this low for this long. And the new king saying he's going to continue.
Well, you've got sort of an old-fashioned price war going on.
Exactly right.
It's not just hurting us.
And they win.
It's not just hurting us, it's hurting other countries. Well, hopefully the technology will get even better, and that will add into this as well. But on the security side, the real overlay across the entire Middle East now, as I see it, you have the Islamists, jihadists, sort of the hardline fundamentalists on the one side, and really everybody else on the other. You also have intertwined within that Sunni and Shia. And when you're talking about Saudi Arabia, they are, not just because, of course, it's where you find Mecca and Medina, it's where people go for the pilgrimage, for the Hajj. They have elevated themselves as the real clear, especially because what's happened in Egypt, they are the clear defenders of the Sunni, so to speak. And this schism, which goes all the way back to the 7th century, goes all the way back to the earliest years after the life of the Prophet Muhammad, this schism is now playing out in conflicts that include Syria, it includes Yemen, it includes Iraq. I mean, you look at everything that's happening there, there's a Sunni-Shia divide. Iran is picking favorites, Iran is meddling, getting involved in things. The Saudis are doing the same, and because we're not as clear on what we want right now, both of those states have, I think, a freer hand to do that, or at least Saudis feel that they have a freer hand than maybe they did in the past, because the administration is essentially saying, we don't really have a vision, we don't really know. This current administration doesn't really know what the Middle East should look like.
Some people describe Saudi Arabia as the heartland of hate. How would you describe it?
Just imagine for a second that you took, sort of to give you a sense of a corollary, if, you know, Catholics, Rome, right, Vatican, the Vatican, if you had a country, let's say all of Italy, that banned the practice of any religion that was not Catholicism, that beheaded people for actually apostasy or for trying to spread a different religious belief system, I think the world would look very unfavorably upon that.
Yeah, I don't think if the pontiff, who had been washed in blood, who had the big machetes and beheading people there in at St. Peter's, if he died, the world would not be saying he was a reformer.
Yeah, the world has embarrassed itself in the case of Saudi Arabia, or at least the world media has embarrassed itself, I think, most of it, by referring to, I mean, this is really just the sort of lowest of low expectations. I think it's a fair way to put it. I mean,
Don't you think it is the racism of low expectations? I'm fascinated by the way we just accept from the Middle East that, well, okay, yes, they're behaving like barbarians, but they're doing the best they can. Excuse me? I mean, what are you saying?
The left in this country doesn't really take that tone. Their tone is, well, they have it, it's different than ours. Don't criticize it. They're doing things differently there. And the things that are bad are actually our fault. So they don't, it's not that, it'd be one thing if we had clarity on the barbarity, if we were all agreed that, look, what they're doing is ridiculous, guys, and maybe we can't change it. But what you hear actually in this country is, well, no, it's one of the 3 great monotheisms, and this is the seat of the religion, and they're doing things differently, but that's okay because the Crusades or the Inquisition, or, you hear this just sort of hiding of the ball all the time. People aren't honest about the fact that not only the Saudis are they doing things from a human rights perspective that are just appalling, and they are, but they have been the main exporters of virulent Islamist hate for decades.
Okay,